Yesterday, President Biden revealed he's been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. And of course, we all wish you a very rapid recovery, and we're thinking of you and of your family during this diagnosis. Now, this diagnosis has been met with an outpouring of support on both sides of the aisle. I mean, it was surprising to see some of the people who wish them well, and it made me feel better. It made me feel better about it, because now I don't mind fighting. You know what I mean? Because I know you're here. I know someone's in there. And it also claimed, there's lots of claims of a health cover-up, and you know, when the Bidens were here, they kind of addressed that. And this is what they said.
Since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities in the final year of your presidency. What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that.
I saw him all throughout the day, and I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere. I didn't have him, you know, sequestered in some place. I mean, that's
Wish he had.
So, will this cancer diagnosis add fuel to the fire, or should politics be put aside for a minute and just let's get through this?
I'll just say, you know, I think he was, what he said, cancer touches us all, when he posted this on social media, is so true. I'm sure that every single person in this audience and at this table knows someone who has had cancer, is a survivor of cancer, or has died from cancer. One of my best friends died from breast cancer and colon cancer. And so I think that the majority of U.S. families will feel for the Bidens. I don't think this is a time for politics, but what I will say is that this administration has cut cancer funding research by 31% since 2025. And the U.S., for being such a wealthy country, seems to be cutting cancer research not only for our elderly, our men, but also our children. And I think that's so despicable and so disdainful. And I hope perhaps something good comes from this diagnosis, that we will continue funding cancer research, because it's very, very important.
Well said. And I think I speak for all of us when I say our just heartfelt prayers are with the Bidens. I honestly cried when I saw the news yesterday. He feels close to us because he was just here. And we wish him nothing but just hopefully a speedy recovery. Listen, I think that it's really uncomfortable to talk about issues of aging, of mortality, of getting older. Every family has dealt with when they see somebody they love starting to slow down or starting to slip up, getting that diagnosis that's heartbreaking. And I think there's a way to have those conversations that's responsible, that's respectful, and then there's a way that's just political, like punditry, and isn't helpful to anyone. The one thing that stood out to me, well, two things. Few people have done more to invest in cancer than Joe Biden with his cancer moonshot after he lost his son, Beau Biden. So I really hope some of the same treatments he helped promote may help him. What did stand out to me, though, is early detection matters. Had he caught this sooner, it may not be stage 4. And there's some kind of discussion around. So Obama did at 50 the prostate exam. Trump reportedly did in 2024 at 78. Biden hadn't, and I guess some doctors don't recommend you do in your 70s. We need to revisit that, because if they had caught this sooner, he might be with us a lot longer. And I feel like we need more answers on why it wasn't detected sooner.
I can maybe help you with that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I spoke this morning to Manny Menon, Dr. Manny Menon, who was the pioneer of robotic prostate surgery. He's my husband's surgeon and my husband's doctor.
I thought you were about to say that was your husband.
No, honestly, let me tell you something. I know more about prostate cancer, unfortunately, for somebody that doesn't have a prostate than I would like to.
Because your husband had prostate
cancer.
Yeah,
and it's one of the most common cancers. He is cancer-free, and he beat it. One of the problems is, as Dr. Menon was explaining, that after the age of 70, some medical organizations, most medical organizations, do not recommend that men get PSA. I think when you have to be your best advocate, if you are over 70 and they're telling you no PSA necessary, require a PSA. Make it a point. Also, look, I just want to say, for me, this was sad. I love Joe Biden unabashedly. it was sad because when he was here, he was telling us about his next chapter and the things that he was going to be working on. He's working on a memoir, excited to be spending time with his kids and his grandkids, going out to America and speaking. And so right now, his priority is going to have to be his health and his treatment. But also, the Joe Biden we know is a man who has been very open about his challenges in life. He didn't need to tell us that he had a Gleason score of 9, stage 4 prostate cancer. He's a private citizen now. I think he's doing this to remind everybody that we can all be touched by cancer and that we need to be our advocates. He told us when he was suffering from a depression after the car crash that took the life of his first wife and his baby daughter. He told us what it's like to be the parent of somebody struggling with addiction. They took us through the journey of Beau's cancer and Beau's death. So at every challenge that Joe Biden and Jill Biden have faced in their life, they have taken the American people along to help us when we face the same challenges. And the Joe Biden I know is an eternal congenital optimist. That's what he calls himself. So I want to play this little clip of Joe Biden to remind him of his own words.
I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Get back up, Joe. We're rooting for you.
Prostate cancer is, I too may know too much. It runs in all the men in my family. It's what my grandpa passed from. It's what my dad and his brothers all got. We're very mindful for my brother and early detection, testing, all the things. One thing that came to mind when I saw this is there have been a few people in my life in the last 5 years or so that finally retired, that worked so hard, and within the first year they were gone, they passed. And it's like we work our whole lives to finally get a break. And when President Biden was here, and this is something I said early on, like when people have served for so long, let them live. I said to him, you know, President Biden, one thing I hope for you is that you can have a glass of wine and watch a sunset. Like people that have served for so long, I want you to enjoy some time when you're not serving everyone else, you're just serving yourself. And so seeing this, not that, you know, there's so much here in prostate cancer, we can, you know, he can have time left and all those things, but that's the first thing that ran through my mind is like, I wish, it breaks my heart when people work so hard, because the people I'm speaking of were 20 years his junior. Like they were young people that weren't ready to go, and they worked so hard to support families, and then they barely get off work and they're gone. And so I just hope that there's still time for him to have that glass of wine.
The prognosis, I think, is
He actually
pretty
doesn't
good
drink.
for some
Well,
people.
I wondered that after I said it. I was like, maybe I should have recommended tea, like chamomile Like a nice tea. chamomile.
Yeah, so whatever beverage is his choice, I hope he gets to watch that sunset. and
I think
relax.
this is survivable. I'm not a doctor, but
It's what they're saying. What they're
Reportedly.
saying is, you know, there are 3 ways they can treat it. His age will have a lot to do with how they do it. But I want to point out to people that had this been the case while he was president, there's no way you wouldn't have known.
Right.
Because he would have had to have these treatments. So this is not something he was carrying around or that he was hiding. And as Anna said, we know about his struggles. We know about his struggles, and now we know about this one. And I just, again, want to commend the people who cut their tongues off and said, get well soon, you know? And because I think that it did something for me.
And
It
the
made
people who
me.
didn't cut their tongues off, I have a place where they can put them.
Well, I'm not giving them any sun at all. That's why I'm not even mentioning them. That's why I'm saying the ones who did it, who were shocking. When you read the names, it's like, oh, you said something good. Oh my God.
a little empathy.
It turns out that you have a heart. So there is reason to have faith. There is reason. We actually all are suffering together in many ways. So we're not alone, and that's a good thing.